Welcome everybody to the Latin Nerds Network. My name is Jose and this is my review for Oppenheimer. This is one I've been very excited about, mainly because of the guy behind the camera, of course, director Christopher Nolan. I'm a huge fan. I love mainly all his stuff. His movies range from good to great to fantastic even. And this is a time when I think he's really beginning to diversify that portfolio. I think right now he's the best director currently, not of all time. That's still a Spielberg and Scorsese discussion, but he's definitely creeping up there with every movie that he makes, and him again diversifying that portfolio right now, going into something of a historical biopic drama here. We've seen him do science fiction, Interstellar, kind of a thriller action, maybe heady stuff with either Tenet or Inception. He's done a superhero thing, of course, so he's doing a lot of different films, a war movie with Dunkirk, and succeeded at every turn, at least in my opinion. So I would like to see him tackle something different, right? Again, him leading up to being a great director that can do any genre, and he's definitely proven that here. Oppenheimer is going to be, and I'm sure you heard this before with some of the reactions that come out of, I think, the Paris debut and even London, this is going to be an Oscar contender in various categories: writing, directing, absolutely. This best picture, you name it, you're gonna hear this movie a lot when it comes to award season, and it's well deserved. Once again, here Christopher Nolan doing what he does and just making great work. He's a great, incredible director. Technically speaking, his shots always are great. The use of the music, the editing, everything really comes together in his films. Whether you like them or not, it's hard to argue against just the pure filmmaking of it. And this is no different, right? But the difference here is that he's really telling a different kind of story here. Obviously, here Oppenheimer, of course, was, if you guys are unfamiliar who he is, he's basically kind of a scientist, a physicist, I guess, who kind of spearheaded the quantum physics, I guess realm here in the United States. Bringing that to the U.S. and really making that grow. And of course, him leading to taking over the Manhattan Project back in the 40s, early 40s during World War II. Of course, of Hitler going crazy over there, trying to kill all the Jews and all that, him being a Jew himself. And, of course, this one here, not only tells that story, but also the things that the aftermath of his creation, right? He created he spearheaded the project that created the atom bomb, which changed the world here. And, Cillian Murphy, who plays Oppenheimer, is fantastic. We got other guys, Matt Damon, who's great. We got Emily Blunt, who really works here. Robert Downey Jr., who I've heard great things about. And after the first hour, I'm like, okay, he's fine. I think it was all that. And that's the last couple hours, he was sensational. He was as good as I've ever seen him in a long time. He is great. And Christopher Nolan bringing out the chops that we know Robert Downey Jr. has, right? He's been a great actor for a long time. And he hasn't done a good drama in a while, right? We've seen him more the MCU after his career resurgence and all that. So he's kind of getting back to what we know he is capable of doing. Cillian Murphy's never been better as far as I'm concerned. And I liked him. He's done Nolan movies before. He was in Dunkirk, of course, the Dark Knight trilogy. He doing Peaky Blinders for Netflix, which I thought he was great in. So they all come to play here. I mean, it's stellar acting, and this movie, which is different. This movie is not going to be for everybody. It's not, because this is very straightforward. It's a biopic, historical drama. It's not exactly going to excite a lot of people. And I get it, right? But I'm glad Nolan did it anyway, because I like him to venture out. It can't always be the same thing every time, and he always, not necessarily relies on it, but it's always a gimmick, a hook with some of his movies, right? The Tenet, the whole time travel thing, and Inception, the whole idea of the dreams, and the science behind Interstellar, whatever the case. Even Dunkirk was more about just the actual battle and what the situation happened in Dunkirk than the actual characters, right? This one here, he's relying solely on the characters and the story. No gimmicks, nothing cool, flashy. For the most part, it's just him telling a great story and doing it in a way that makes it compelling. And yes, it's long. It's 3 hours. Could he cut some of it? Probably. I think one of my minor complaints. But as pure filmmaking, it's great. I mean, he does what he does best. And I think this may not be my favorite film of his, but it might be his best film. Because this is not a movie I'll say I go back and rewatch a bunch of times. I can see Inception 1,000 times, The Dark Knight I've seen 1,000 times, etc., etc. This is one you probably see a couple of times and all that, and appreciate just the work behind it, what they were able to accomplish, telling a good, great, compelling story, great editing, the music, cinematography. It's all there, all this, and this feels very much like a Nolan film, right? It could be a straightforward one, but he, again, plays with time a little bit, going back and forth between, several time frames on Oppenheimer's life, even using like black and white to kind of reflect a different time as opposed to the color that he does in other parts of the film. all that comes together very well. And that scene with the atomic bomb, which he used no CGI, is incredibly impressive. It's a phenomenal. That whole sequence, which happens about near the second hour, towards the end of the second hour, it's phenomenal. It's brilliant filmmaking. It really is, and he sets it up so well. It came out really good. I love the way things ended, and things have escalated because yeah, he's focusing on Oppenheimer's life in the beginning, then obviously him involvement in the project, of course, the Manhattan Project, and then what happened to him. If you guys don't know about it, him was almost being discredited, right, from what his work, although he was considered to be a hero, or whatever, a high regard because of what his accomplishment and helping ending World War II, with Japan had kind of taken the reins on that, and then the world turning on him, at least the government, because yeah, there was a lot of affiliations with communist people in the Communist Party. He wasn't a communist himself, but he was associated with some individuals, had friends, even his wife at the time had previous connections to the Communist Party, and they used that against him unfairly. So they really take a deep dive into that, which is really very fascinating and interesting. Again, not for everybody, right? This isn't a movie that's gonna get you excited, the edge of your seat. It's a well-made, well-crafted movie, incredibly engaging, and Nolan able to kind of give you and keep you interested in which could have been a very dry subject matter, right? And a lot of people are gonna look at it and say, well, maybe they didn't enjoy it, it was dull, it was slow. Fair, I guess, no doubt. But as pure filmmaking, it's great. I was engaged. People I was around with really enjoyed it. Some really great scenes, and again, that ending, right? Emily Blunt really brings it as well. She's another one playing Oppenheimer's wife. She was great in the end. Again, she didn't do a whole lot in the first couple hours, but those last 10 minutes she's in, she was fantastic. This is why she's Emily Blunt, right? She's fantastic. But really great movie. This is a movie I absolutely recommend if you're a Nolan fan. Again, this is not your cup of tea. I get it, right? This is, again, it's 3 hours. It's a lot to sit through. I understand that. Some people are going to complain about that. Fair enough. But if you appreciate good storytelling, you wanted something good, historical, account of what happened and what is a very important time in this country. This had literally lasting effects, and it still does. And like at the end of the movie, you can kind of tell, when Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, his acting is so good. But he's in his face and what he did, the aftermath of what he created. It's one of those things that it reminds you of Jurassic Park, and with the Jeff Goldblum's character, they're so worried about whether they could, they never stopped to think about whether they should, right? And now, and he's going through that, right? Seeing the effects of what happened in Japan and in Hiroshima and all that, and now he's kind of feeling a certain way about the morality of it, or lack of morality behind having this kind of bomb and unleashing it upon the world, and what those effects were and ended up being. So I really love this film. It was great. This might be one of my favorite movies of the year. No question, one of my favorite Nolan movies for sure. Not as far one of his best movies, not his favorite, right? Because again, it's not one I'm gonna rewatch it over and over again. But one you must see if you like filmmaking, you're interested in the kind of story, you love Chris Nolan. He absolutely nails it and gives us something we haven't seen from him before. A great character study, real deep dive and emotional dive into what's the events of the atom bomb and all that. So absolutely must watch. This is a brilliant film. Nolan, this is, again, if you forgot, he's still there. He's still the man as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what anybody says. So absolutely, you're a fan, definitely go watch it. If you do, comment below, let me know what you guys thought. And of course, if you haven't done so already, subscribe below and feed money to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.